This is Kingdom Commerce, and today's episode starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Commerce, where we do commerce the kingdom way. I am one of your hosts, Cooper Peterson, joined by co-host, the Red Rocket, Luke Reichbos, and our sponsors for the episode, Scott Moffitt and Joe Abraham. It's great to have you guys here.
Two bald guys.
Two bald guys,
bald
absolutely,
bandits.
if you couldn't tell. In today's episode, we're going to be interviewing three entrepreneurs or three ventures at Cedarville, 4 students who have taken the leap of faith to make their idea a reality. So without further ado, let's dive right in. I'm really excited for this segment of Kingdom Commerce because we have one of my good friends here, Aaron Perry. He's a student at Cedarville. He's a sophomore entrepreneur, has his own product and company called Ultra Light Running, and he's been active in the pitch competition we had here, and he's just been a great friend and an opportunity to learn from him through his entrepreneurial journey. And so, Aaron, I'd like to get into your product and kind of your journey as a student entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's a awesome pleasure to be here. So, like you said earlier, Ultralight Running, it's an ultra marathon company. So the ultra marathon is any distance longer than 26.2 miles, a marathon. And so I've been doing ultra marathons for probably around 3 years, but endurance sports around 5. After soccer, I kind of went into that endurance side of things. I did soccer till after my senior year of high school. So my original idea for my business was a headlamp. So for a lot of ultra marathons, you go into the night and you have to run through the night. And I was an engineer my freshman year at college, so I learned CAD, which is kind of like a 3D rendering software. So I had an idea. I was like, let's redesign the headlamp for ultra marathon runners. So I hop on CAD, I design something, and it turns out it's pretty sweet. I can't really go into details because I would have to get a patent for this one. And so that's kind of why I actually pivoted to the current product I'm on. But I 3D printed that and then started talking with some lawyer friends of mine and then eventually some manufacturers. I was quoted $25,000 to get the product in hand.
Yeah.
Not even like inventory, none of that stuff, just in hand. And then $20,000 for a patent, give or take. And that's $45,000, and I'm a college student, and I was like, I can't do that, but I really want to start this business because I love my community, I love what I'm a part of as an ultramarathon runner. I pivoted. I made a running hat because most runners, male and female, all wear hats. I personally do. I have longer hair now, and I love wearing a hat. I can't run without a hat. And so I incorporated 2 elastic pockets on both sides to hold your house key, your running gel, smaller things like maybe tissues if it's colder outside, just small things, nothing for like necessarily a long distance run, but maybe just an extra feature to have there to store some things. So that's kind of what my company is currently on. I'm slowly kind of expanding that product lineup, but that's what I'm currently working on.
And where are you at with that product?
Yes.
What stage is it in?
So I've already released the first rendition of it. So I've sold out of almost sold out of the first one. I'm already working with my manufacturer, getting the second one out. So I'm going to make a few switches on it. It's going to be flat bill. I'm going to have some reflective bits on it. Some of the adjustable things I'm switching up. It'll still be adjustable, but more comfortable. And then having my logo across, or the ultralight running across to really identify. Cool. So, yeah.
And then do you feel like there's probably other products coming in the pipeline, and then when you've built up enough money, your big idea, the light, can be brought to market?
For sure. So I'm working on half tights right now and a running shirt. So both those things are in the works, and then I'd love to do that headlamp idea because it'd be so cool to have that out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit about the dynamic between being a full-time student and being an entrepreneur, how you work through that, maybe some of the challenges, but some of the things you've learned out of those the tough balance?
For sure. So I was originally engineering, and then switched to business because I love math, but I hated physics, and so physics was kind of my downfall.
Yeah.
But I came to the business school, and I had already had this business kind of in the background, and I was like, well, let's be taught these things that are pretty much theory. A lot of the stuff we're taught in class is theory, and let's apply it. A lot of people are taught theory, then regurgitate that, and I think that's one of the issues with our education system. But that's beside the point. So I apply the stuff I learned in class to my business. But it's not just, okay, here's a marketing idea, and then let's just say that explained it on a test. No, I turn around and I'm like, okay,
I'll try it.
let's switch it. So actually on my website, I had something above the fold, which is a marketing term, and I had too much. I was like, okay, let's switch it during class. I switched it during class. I was like, let's rewrite this. So like stuff like that. That's something that I've really loved to be able to actually apply. But kind of the dynamics between being a full-time student and an entrepreneur is it allows me to apply the stuff I learned in class, but just time management's huge. It's throughout the week. I'm working on classes. Friday, like when I plan my schedule, I want to make sure my Friday afternoons are clear because I knock out all the homework for the weekend. So Saturday and Sunday are purely business stuff. And so that's kind of my routine. Now, if I have an exam on Monday, I would study throughout the weekend, but 90% of the homework is knocked out Friday. And so then I'm able to work on my business Saturday, Sunday.
What are some of the challenges? You had mentioned challenges. Yeah. What stands out is like the tough parts of the journey so far?
I think it's lack of knowledge. I think that's the biggest thing. I love learning. I'm dyslexic. It doesn't really affect me all that much, but when it comes to reading, I'm just slow at reading. And so I love podcasts. I love podcasts so much. And then audiobooks. And I've listened to so many audiobooks, so many podcasts, and just I'm trying to learn a lot. And if I have an issue with currently where I'm at, like I know like if my sales aren't to a certain number, okay, I don't know why they're not, but let's go figure that out. And so then I know that the next podcast topic or the next book topic is how to get more sales, how to get more leads. I'm currently reading a book by Alex Hormozy called $100 Million Leads. Very good. And it kind of goes through that whole process. And so that's kind of the biggest hurdle I've had to, and I'm still
lack of
jumping
knowledge,
over.
But your hunger for it is kind of filling that gap.
For sure. So it definitely goes hand in hand.
Wow.
What would you say to someone if they told you, "Oh, I don't have enough time to run a business because I'm a student"?
They haven't said. I mean, you heard the saying like, if it's important to you, you'll make time.
Yeah, right. Well said.
It's not important to you then. Like I was an engineer doing 18 credit hours as an engineer, and I was still doing this. And
now you probably weren't doing other stuff, right? You had to sacrifice something to make room for this, but it was important enough.
In life, you must choose your regrets.
Yeah. And
I chose my regrets. And looking back, they're regrets, but I mean, they're bigger things. You have higher priorities, right? Yeah. And so this was high up on the priority list, and that's something you kind of have to deal with. I'd love to, and my goal is to be able to run a business and have that business after I graduate. I mean, if I work a 9 to 5, great. I understand that. That's kind of the process. But I'd love not to. Yeah. And if I don't want to do that, then you have to start freshman year, senior year of high school, and try and go through that process and build slow. Yeah. And people are like, why is it taking you so long? Because I'm doing it right. Yeah. Like people are like, how's your business going? It's really slow right now, but I'm doing it right. Yeah. I mean, hopefully. And that's what I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. We talked in a previous episode, if you're not willing to give it 2 to 3 years with no return, no money, because it's all going back in and it's moving slow and you're building a reputation and building a brand, don't even start.
Yeah. 2 things to that. My personal bank account, I'm a college student. I'm pretty much broke. My business bank account has more money than my personal bank account because I don't take anything out. Right. And then additionally, people measure their work in weeks, months, years. If you expand that time horizon to decades, I mean, Jordan Peterson says you can do whatever you want in 5 years. Just give it 5 years. That's right. But you have to do the thing.
The 10,000 hours, you got to put the time in. Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, so you're starting to answer it already, is when you graduate, do you see yourself running this particular company? Or is this like a true passion? This could be what I do for the next 5-10 years? Or do you feel like, hey, this is becoming a really great learning experience? There could be a completely different business that could come in a year or two. So this one isn't necessarily the thing, but it really has my attention for now.
Yeah, and that's something I've actually really been thinking about. So you really nailed that on the head. So there's 2 things. I don't know if this is the business. I love it because it's my sport. I enjoy doing this. I don't know. I know it's very scalable, and a lot of people recommended doing a service-based business when starting out. I did a product-based business. I know you did as well. I'm not sure what you started with, but I don't know if this is going to be the one. But at the same time, like if a business fails, it's not the person you became to build that business is what you take to the next business. Yeah. And so that's hopefully what I'm doing here is I'm learning all this stuff so I can fast track the next business if this business doesn't succeed. So I'd love to do this business because that's currently, I don't feel like I'm working when I'm working on this business.
That's awesome.
But if something happens and it fails, great. We'll move on to the next one. But I'll be
or even
able
if
to
it doesn't fail, somebody may come along, and this happened to me twice, where someone with a greater passion for the business comes and takes it over. They may not have had the ability to start it up. They didn't have the gumption, the risk tolerance, the passion to start it up. And I didn't have the passion to continue it for the next 10 years. So it's beautiful. I get it to a certain point. They come in, step in, take it over. There's some sort of a relationship, transaction, payout to be happened. And I move on to the next thing.
Well, to what you said earlier, what's like one of the biggest things that people are kind of experiencing when trying to get into entrepreneurship? They're very risk averse, very risk averse. And in my situation, like say I fail, I still have a roof over my head. I still am going to college.
Yep.
I know I'm blessed to be in that position. But if I fail, what is the worst thing that's going to happen to you? I still can go back home in Kansas.
Yeah.
I still have a family.
You got some hurt feelings, whatever, but it's no big deal, right? Yeah.
So everybody's risk averse. But what's like bring that back. Like if you fail, what's going to be the worst that happens? Yeah.
That's right.
As we wrap up here, Aaron, thinking about our audience, we have many aspiring entrepreneurs or young entrepreneurs. What would you say to them as a word of encouragement?
I think it's worth it. I mean, people spend their whole life working for somebody else, which isn't bad. I get that. Some people, like if you're a doctor or if you're anything, if that's your passion, go for it. But then people work their 60 years. They put their 60 years in, and then they retire, and then they have 15 years. Max, 20 maybe. To work 60, then to get 20 for fun.
For retirement, so to speak.
Why not start now, right?
Yeah.
Because it'll all be, it's worth it.
I love what you said. It'll just, the simplicity of it's worth it. And on the heels of you saying, it could fail tomorrow, right? But it's still worth it because of the person you become, the skills you've gained, the abilities you have, and what regrets you exchanged it for. It's not even comparable. Yeah. That's what tells me you're a true entrepreneur, and you'll always be an entrepreneur because that means the official entrepreneur bug has bit you, and you'll never be the same.
And if the business fails, my resume looks better when I apply for a 9-to-5. Yeah. I mean, I'm applying for Scott's business, and the one thing that stuck out, he said I should really hammer this on my resume, is my business. That's the one thing that's really stuck out. And I know I'm young, but it's the man you become when building the business.
That's awesome.
Aaron, we really appreciate you sharing your story. Ultralight Running will have the links in the description. But
yeah, any friends who are runners, let them know about this brand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Aaron,
appreciate it.
Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome, guys, to this segment of Kingdom Commerce. I'm your host, Cooper, co-host Luke, and we got Mia and Chayton with us from Crown Chains. They're going to be talking with us about their business, their experiences as students running a business, and just some encouragement that they have for the audience, you all. So my first question for you guys is, what would you say it's like being a full-time student? I know you guys are involved in other activities as well, but you're also co-CEOs.
Yeah.
So what's it like with the balance in that? How has this whole process been? Has it been easier? Is it harder? What are some of the challenges?
Yeah. I think personally, I think it can just be tough to balance. I mean, students are busy. We got classes, we got homework. Me and Mia have both been involved in ministries on campus as well. So it's like trying to balance all those things and rehearsals, and it can at times be a challenge, but I think it's really helped to equip us to want to make sure we're intentionally using our time. So, I mean, Google Calendar is like my best friend, and things like that.
Shout out Google Calendar.
Yeah, I think being really intentional with your time and making sure that like when you're in a meeting with someone, when we're meeting as a team, like we're going to make sure and utilize every moment that we have to encourage one another, to help each other out, to push each other to be better, and to get things done. So, yeah.
Would you say that you mentioned before you have 10 people? Like,
yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
Do you still have 10 people now? Did you has your team shrunk since the IBC officially ended for you guys last semester?
Yeah.
Because that was a 2-semester thing, and this is the third semester of Crown Chains.
Agreed.
Yeah. So the IBC is structured just as a class, and our initial group was 10 people, and that, like you said, ended in December. It was the official close, but we are blessed to be the first team to ever continue on post the IBC program. And we lost 2 of our original members just due to time constraints and things, but have since then added 1. So we went from a team of 10 to a team of 8 back to a team of 9.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. what did you do to add a person? Because you're like, okay, here we are. We've worked for a whole year now.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing in someone to this dynamic. Is that like, here's a set need that they needed to fill? Were you like vetting them? And what was it, like the whole team? Was it just you two?
I think it was kind of a team need realization of like it was for social media and marketing was the role that we were kind of filling. And we had a photographer that we really, really loved and we were connected with who was doing a lot of photography for us already. And then we were running the social media and it was just like, why? Like we could just have her do both of these things and she's a great fit for the team and kind of the passion of the product. And she's always been like an early adopter for us. So it just kind of worked to bring her onto the team.
What's it been like leading a group of students as a student? Have there been some challenges with that? What have you learned? How do you balance that with everything else you've going on?
Yeah. I think, anytime you have a team, it's going to be easy for team dynamics to at times be, it can be tough. But for the most part, it's been really, really sweet with this specific team, mainly just because all of us understand the goal. We've all been a part of the IBC for, over a year now. And we were all like, okay, so we understand that this is not something, we're getting paid for. This is something that we're interested and we want to do, not even for our sake, but to be able to bring a product that we really love to people who would like and desire and need it. And then also we want to bring glory to the Lord ultimately. So it's like, okay, we have this business, we have this idea. How can we bring it to people? How can we work together as a team? I think like, especially in team dynamics though, kind of like what you were saying, I think it can be at times easy to let your like ego kind of get in there and get in the way. But all of the team members have really demonstrated a lot of humility for such a long time and being willing to hear ideas from other people and being willing kind of to die to ourselves in that way.
Yeah, and we're going to be interviewing solopreneurs, and you guys are a pretty large team. What would you say are some of the benefits, like maybe the top 2 or 3 benefits you've seen from working together as a team?
Yeah, many hands make light work, so the saying goes. But I think that has been the thing that has allowed Crown to succeed from early on is we have, out of the IBC teams from last year, we have had the most units. And we also have a lot of assembly, which would not have been possible had we had a smaller team.
Agreed.
So I think there was a great need for our specific product line that required a lot of hands on deck. So that was one of the greatest benefits I think that we saw early on was the fact that we had a lot of hands to kind of do a lot of things and juggle because we had so many moving pieces that had we had a smaller team, it would have been very difficult to do that well. So that was one of the biggest benefits of having a lot of hands to help you out.
I want to touch back on a different portion actually. You mentioned just you haven't taken anything, like you don't pay yourselves.
Right.
Can you like explain what the money goes to that you've made?
Yeah.
It's actually really exciting. We'll be, so in short, all of the money and the proceeds that we make does go to Target Dayton Ministries. And so that is a ministry that we chose, and each team of the IBC gets to choose a ministry in which they give to. And so it's just a nonprofit, whichever one that you have. Usually a lot of us have volunteered at these places. And so Target Dayton is doing really good work in the Dayton area. And so we were like, yes, we'd love to donate to them. And in 2 weeks, actually, not this upcoming Saturday, but the Saturday after that, we'll be giving them actually the money in person. And that's like an exciting thing that, it's not something that we keep. It's not anything that goes into our own pockets. We all understand that we're doing this because we love it. And it's not for any personal monetary gain. Yeah.
What are your plans? So is there a way to eventually make profit for your team after the IBC program? Is that your plan to move forward with that?
So
and to make it your own?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in December, technically that was the end of the IBC's program. So technically after December, we could have been a for-profit company. But as we kind of discussed as a team, the purpose and the really meaning behind everything that we're doing, it didn't make sense for us to be for profit. So we are still operating nonprofit. And I think part of that has, like we had talked about in the last episode, has created that community and that like passion for our business because it's not about ourselves. It's not about monetary gain. So everyone who has stayed on and is a part of this is really doing it because of the greater purpose rather than because they get any monetary value out of it, which we've seen like has been a really, really cool aspect of Crown that we never really thought of. But it's created a whole different dynamic for our team because people are in this because they want to be in it. And that's the main reason.
That puts you all on the same ground too.
Yeah.
Has that created any challenges with your team members where some people might have had different views and you had to work through them with that? Because you came in, you created this business which created money and was profitable technically within a very short amount of time. It's like, okay, well, if I want to take this and try and scale it afterwards and make a bunch of money because I started something here with these people, and then I don't have to go out and do it all over again with a different company.
Right.
Has that been something?
I think I can speak to that actually, because I personally remember thinking, okay, if we're going to continue this, I mean, I want to make money with this. Like, this is something that we're all a part of, and we've all contributed a lot of time to, and lots of hours too. You know, it's great, but also like I felt the need to be able to gain some kind of monetary value from that. But I think it was actually Matthew, I believe, who mentioned it to us. He's our chief financial officer. So the financial guy was actually saying, no, I mean, what was the goal of us to do this anyways? It was to gain the experience, to grow closer with teammates, to bring a product to a community, and to start something that we all are really thankful for and excited to do. We didn't start this for the money. And so he kind of pointed us. Yeah, he pointed that out to me. And I remember being actually really humbled in that moment of being like, yeah, this isn't about me. I mean, yes, it would be nice to gain money. That's okay. And I remember thinking like, once he mentioned that, and we had some teammates who were kind of similar to me in that way. They wanted to, understandably so, gain money from it. But upon more conversations with the entire team, and once we met as a team about it and really discussed it, I think everyone was able to kind of come to a consensus that, we'll continue doing this as a nonprofit. Yeah.
That's really cool, because I think it gets down to the why. Because that's a struggle for everyone. Like many entrepreneurs, they just want to get in, they want to be opportunistic, they just want to make money, they just want and get out and have the clout and the financial freedom. But what we're doing here at Kingdom Kommerce is not just about making money. Now, we need to make money to finance the kingdom, right? We need to, we want Christians to have influence in society and to generate wealth, right? And so, but that's not the driving factor behind all of it. Right. The whole point is that Christ is magnified and he's glorified and the Lord receives the credit. And so whether we're doing that through a nonprofit, we're doing that for profit, what are we actually doing in society? Right. And so what you guys have said has been really inspirational. That's awesome.
Well, before we start ramping this up in a moment here, I also just want to ask, what are your plans post-college? Like right now we're going to be going into the summer soon as we're recording this. Are you like, okay, we're planning on continuing on with Crown Chains going into the summer, and I know the two of you are currently technically juniors. You're going to be graduating this next semester, but are you looking to continue on? Is it just going to be something where if things don't pick up more, where you're able to pay for people eventually as you stay a nonprofit, then just let it die out? What are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I can speak to that first. I think there's a lot of potential for the company, and I think we all see that, we all recognize that, which is awesome. But it's one of those things where it's kind of take it day by day, take it week by week, and as we have been intentional to remind ourselves that it's not our own and that this company really is the Lord's, to give it over to him. He's continued to bless it. And so we've loved to see that. But obviously a lot of the team, like you said, going into the summer, kind of we're all parting ways geographically speaking. So that leads to challenges to discuss about what things will look like, which we'll get to when we get to it, kind of a thing. But like I said, really just taking it day by day and seeing how seeing what opportunities arise for Crown in the future.
Yeah, and I think kind of along those same lines, like the Lord will continue to make it clear, I think, to us what the direction will be. And in the past, that's what we've relied on. It's like, okay, Lord, like, is this something that you would like for us to continue? And it seemed clear just because there was opportunities and doors that were opening that we were like, this is great. Let's keep doing this. It's an easy pathway to continue forward. And we think the Lord's leading that. And I think that's what we want to try to continue, even though it is a little bit more unknown kind of into the future. I know we're really trying to keep our options open and ultimately listen to the Lord in terms of where he's leading us.
Yeah.
So,
and I think like sometimes it can appear more like, we don't know what we're doing, we don't know the direction. But I think I've found a lot more peace in just taking it step by step and listening to the Holy Spirit's guidance in that than when I try to have control over knowing every aspect of my life. Like when I try to think this is where we're going to go, this is what we're going to do next, I feel a lot more anxious than when I just say, tomorrow the Lord will give me clarity on where we're supposed to go.
Yeah, we have
like
ideas,
in life
we have
in general,
plans, but ultimately, So it's not an excuse to not be prepared, like just like you said, exactly. It's not being prepared, but it's holding those plans with an open hand.
I'm remembering the verse. I don't remember where it's from, sadly, but it's, man plans, but the Lord directs his steps.
Yeah, Proverbs 16:9. Yeah.
Good.
All right, one last question. There are many in our audience who are aspiring entrepreneurs. what would you say to them to encourage them to take action, to take that step, and just as a word of encouragement?
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. I think it's a good question. I think personally, I know I have to just remind myself to leave the ego at the door. Humility is a thing that I think just anytime you're starting something, you're an entrepreneur, you're excited about something, and it's a good thing to be excited and really want to pursue something hard. And if you have a good product, that's great. But it's really easy to get caught up in that's my identity. That's where my worth comes from. If this succeeds, I'm a success. If this fails, I'm a failure, and that was not good. That's not true. And it's like, okay, Lord, help me to have the humility to know that this business is not even my own. Like, you own it ultimately, and to be willing to hold the future with an open hand. But yeah, I think ego is something that is really easy to allow in, and it doesn't have to be very obvious, but it can sneak its way in and make it to where, all right, Lord, I think I know what I'm going to do next, and I'm going to do this, and it's going to be promotion all about me, and I'm going to be really successful about this. I'm going to make sure I'm earning as much money as I possibly can. And that's an easy thing to get into, especially as an entrepreneur, especially when you're putting in the work, like understandably so. But that's something that I think is important to keep in mind is, all right, have that humility.
Is there anything you want to briefly add before we wrap this segment up?
I would say alongside that, I think ego is definitely something to keep in check, but you also need to be determined. And so there's definitely a balance between those things of like confidence and determination are two different things. And I think if you lead with too much confidence, you can easily stray to the side of becoming egotistical. But having determination, I think, is a biblical perspective to steward your business well and to steward the opportunities that you have well and the ideas that the Lord is giving you. So I think to be determined and not let things hinder you from pursuing the things you want to pursue, but with that also being humble enough to recognize that sometimes a closed door is a closed door, and an idea that you had that you thought was really, really great might not be profitable, and being humble enough to let that go and to move on to the next thing and say, okay, what's the next idea that the Lord might give me that I can take somewhere, but not letting a minor inconvenience hinder you from going on, because you got to kind of really weigh what a minor inconvenience is from a closed door. So having kind of the discernment to realize that.
All right, Mia, Chayton,
Thanks
thank you
for
for a
joining
great
us.
interview. All right, guys, we will catch you on that next segment.
Welcome to this segment, everyone. This time we'll be interviewing Eve Wellner from Cedarville University. Eve, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, why you became an entrepreneur, and about your business?
Yeah, so the name of my company is Eve's Original Sin Cookies. My business specializes in helping people to be creative when they are baking. So that means that they get to pick whatever mix-ins or flavorings they want, so it can be unique to their tastes.
And when did you start the business, and when did you, actually backing up even further, when did you kind of have that aha moment, this is something I'm passionate about, I want to pursue it?
Yeah, so this started way back as I was a sophomore in high school. So I was struggling with anorexia all throughout high school, and it was a really challenging time for me. I was struggling with food. But as I was trying to heal at the end of my sophomore year, I started using cookies as a way to do that. And so I started trying to do different flavors and combinations. And that's where I came up with the idea for my business, because I realized there was a market for that and people really wanted to have a unique experience.
That's great. Okay, so you out of personal necessity, right? You found something that helped you personally, and you said, I think there's an opportunity here. Then what?
So then I realized I have no clue what I'm doing. I actually wanted to be a genetic counselor before this, for
Bit
years.
of a difference.
Yeah.
Very, very different. I mean, medical to business.
The cookies.
Yeah, to cookies. So I knew how to bake cookies, but the business part just wasn't there. It didn't feel there for me. I had some adults in my life, like my grandma. My grandma owns her own garage door business. So I started talking to her a little bit about her business and how she runs that. And so I sought counsel and advice from those that I could reach around me. And I learned a little bit more, enough to know that I needed to kind of test the market with it.
So you started out in this way. How did you continue on and be like, this is really something I want to pursue for a business?
So I would say I had a lot of my high school was really encouraging for me. They really did push me through that. As for whether I knew I really, really wanted to do it with my life, I wasn't sure yet. I really wasn't. So when I came to college, when I was looking for a college, I came to Cedarville, and I actually talked to Dr. Heyman. And I kind of like told him my cookie idea and kind of just testing the waters a little bit, seeing what Cedarville had to offer. And that is when I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. This is a good school. I can learn. I can do it.
Great. And so you said, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
Obviously, the next step is to start the business.
Yes.
And talk to me about what were your initial thoughts about starting a business and what that took, the legal side and everything else.
Yeah, so I was actually terrified of the legal aspects of a business. I was so sure I was going to mess something up because I know nothing about that. And so I was so scared that last year, the end of my freshman year, I was just ready to kind of give up. Like I had been, like there were people in my life that weren't exactly encouraging. They weren't making me believe that I could do it or even learn about it. And so I didn't think I could go on. So I was going to go to nursing actually. But then Dr. Oberbrunner, who's the entrepreneurship professor here, he did like a little speech and it really inspired me. And he was pretty much talking about how you don't need to know stuff about business to start a business. And I reached out to him, kind of told him my concerns, and I think it was in May 13th, I think. He helped me to set up my LLC.
That's
it was
great.
A really easy process.
And it felt so good to overcome it.
Oh, yes.
I want to back up just a little bit because you said something that I think is so important. There's so many people, so many of our viewers and our listeners that the people around them that matter the most to them in their life, friends, family, etc. That Joe has a term, dream stealers. They'll they kind of, and sometimes they're doing it with the purest of intentions. Sometimes they're doing it just because they want to save you from heartbreak or from failure. But they're still, stealing your dream.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, how did you address that?
Yeah, so I kind of started to look at what was going on in my life at the moment and like, was I in the Word? Was I even praying? No, I wasn't doing any of those things because I was distracted. So the first step was fixing that, and that kind of gave me the confidence to understand that God has a plan for me. If God's giving me these feelings of wanting to pursue this, there's a reason behind that. And even if it doesn't work out, there was a reason for even trying it. Yep. And so those people in my life, sure, they could have just been trying to protect me. But ultimately, like, God trumps those people for me and should for everybody. So I kind of had to just keep that mindset as I went along.
That's great.
How have you seen God work in your business since then?
So I mean, honestly, the confidence. I am a very, typically, I feel uncomfortable talking about business. Sometimes I try to avoid it in conversations because it makes me nervous. It's intimidating. And so I would say the confidence. Just knowing that he is going to increase me in whatever way is for his glory was so important to me. I mean, and also just opportunities that I wouldn't have come by just by me pursuing them. Just very random.
Because you're obedient, right?
Yeah.
And whether you have a cookie company 10 years from now or not, this experience God has a plan for. Maybe it's a stepping stone. Maybe it is going to grow into this multi-million-dollar company. So just as kind of the last point, where you are now and kind of moving forward, what are your thoughts in terms of where you are and what's next?
So this summer, I'm going to try to fully commit to my business, which last summer I didn't. I was half business, half job. So this summer, I'm really going to commit to it. I'm going to try to figure out points of sale and to just market as much as possible. And that's going to mean a lot of work on my part, but I am ready for it.
So if there was one piece of advice that you would give to people who went through something similar where they had an idea and a lot of naysayers, or, they faced a fear of something they didn't know, because generally we're scared of things that we don't know or we don't understand, right? makes it feel that much better when you overcome that fear. But what advice would you give to our viewers and listeners who might be on the fence? Should I do this? Should I not? What advice would you give?
I would say that if there are naysayers in your life, look at how they're approaching the topic of you opening your own business or whatever you're doing, and the other areas of your life, whether they're encouraging you in like just the other areas and not so much in the business side, or if they're just not encouraging you in any regard in life. If they're encouraging you in other areas, that probably means that they're just scared for your safety. But if they're being a naysayer for everything, that probably means they're not really on your team. So
Discernment.
Yes.
Discernment. That's a great litmus test. Well, I think that's great content. I really appreciate you joining us. If you want to,
if someone wants to follow along with your story and with your cookies, or possibly get your cookies, can you please tell us and tell the audience where they should go to find that?
Yeah, yes.
We've tried your cookies. I've tried them, and I personally really enjoyed them.
Of
Scott's going to be trying them along with the rest of our
indeed
hosting staff here. So
I'm excited.
Please let us know.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Eve's Original Sin Cookies, and then I'm also, you can email me. That's probably one of the easiest ways, at originalsincookies@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And
we'll have those
plug all
linked.
that information as well.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for entering into this brief segment with Eve. We really appreciate you listening in. With that said, we'll be back to the rest of the desk. So, turns out I already ate my cookie. Committed an egregious sin.
Well, I gotta say, what was this one? The Oreo espresso semi-sweet chocolate, the bomb right here.
Marshmallows, golden graham, semi-sweet chocolate was really good.
Courtesy to Eve.
Shout out Eve's Original Sin Cookies. Go check them out on Instagram if you haven't already.
You will not regret it.
It was great to interview Mia, Chayton, Eve, and Aaron, and just to hear about their stories as student entrepreneurs. They're balancing full-time student with full-time being an entrepreneur. So what were some of the takeaways you guys had just from hearing their stories? What inspired you?
Would you like me to go first? Because I think the two of you are still chewing.
Go for it.
One thing that really stood out to me about just hearing it was seeing how, even though Chayton and Mia were on this team, Eve and Aaron still are going solo. And they're still pushing through, and they're still doing this. And while they haven't hit the major success that Crowned has from all their people, they're still pushing through anyways. And it's just that inspiration of, here I am as a full-time student, someone with all these classes, and you can still do it. I mean, I'm still able to do all of the stuff that I'm involved in, but it's great to see others who are doing it as well, regardless of their situations. And that was just an inspiration.
That's good. That's really good. For me, and working with a lot of entrepreneurs on a regular basis, it's just such a breath of fresh air to hear the consistent and constant reminder that God is partnering with them in their businesses, right? And specifically when Eve was talking about a time where she really wanted to throw in the towel, and the naysayers, there's always going to be naysayers, or as Joe calls them, dream stealers. The way that she was able to utilize discernment that she didn't have at first, but she realized where she was lacking in her relationship with Christ. And then when she started to make that the focus and that the priority, everything else fell into place from there. The doubt went away, the confidence increased because she focused on him. And just hearing, that all of these students just continuously talk about how it's God that continues to guide them through the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys. Loved hearing that.
Yeah, for me, I think what Aaron said, I think really encapsulates what the four entrepreneurs they had to wrestle with. They had to wrestle with their priorities. And Aaron said, your priorities are what you're going to make the time for. And so, yes, it's busy being a student and entrepreneur, but if it's your passion and there's a why behind it, it's possible. And so just hearing how the success and how they're pushing through and grinding, kind of how what Luke said, it really is inspiring. It's encouraging. And to know that they come from the same Christian faith and that we can actually partner together, work together, and encourage each other through this process. And that's something that I hope our audience gets to, is they're watching these stories that they see, yes, this is actually possible. This is possible being 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, not having, a ton of experience, but still taking that step, being able to learn, having that learning agility, and just really, you have to take that first step to get going.
It's an encouragement seeing them here, where it's like, I'm not the only one trying to do stuff. There are others. And it definitely feels lonely at times where it's like, okay, I feel like the people around me aren't into business and their goals are their goals. They don't have these grand aspirations that I might have for building a business and scaling it and being able to provide in the ways that I would like to provide that only being a business owner might be able to allow me to do. But there are those people here on campus, and I'm not alone.
For me, it was really encouraging, and I hope for the viewers and listeners, it was encouraging to see the kinds of businesses that were represented today. Because typically, you get on a podcast when you got your third round of funding and you're on $1 billion valuation and you're based out of Silicon Valley and, you went to Stanford, whatever, right? And anybody watching or listening to those goes, wow, good for them, but I'm nowhere close. Good for them, but I don't have that network. Good for them, but I don't have that education. And here are 3 businesses where, like you jokingly say, like these kids are in the cornfields, right? Mm-hmm. And these are real businesses. Like many of them said, this may be the business that I'm running in 5 years and it may not, but all of them are viable. All of them are exciting. All of them have good product and they're just getting started, and their story is hopefully more inspiring to people watching and listening than hearing about somebody who, baked cookies and got $100 million deal with Target.
Right.
Because that happens once in a blue moon. This is happening every day.
Right.
And so for our viewers, it's like, if she can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, what's your excuse, right? I mean, it's if you can go to school full time, in between homework and extracurricular activities that you may have, whether it's sports or clubs or what have you, and then be able to start a business in the middle of the cornfields is really cool. And I think the perspective of it is, and I heard this from Eve and Aaron as well, is that I don't know that this is what I'm going to be doing 10 years from now. I don't know if it's what I'm going to be doing 20 years from now, but I know that this is where God wants me now, and there's going to be lessons that come out of this process that I'm going to be able to apply in whatever He has for me. And so that kind of peace in the midst of entrepreneurial chaos and questions and uncertainties, I think is what we all strive for.
Yeah, I think all 4 of us were blessed to be part of today with these 4 ventures or 3 ventures for entrepreneurs. I think we're better entrepreneurs because of it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, guys, for a great discussion. Thank you for watching Kingdom Commerce. Let us know you're here by liking the video. We'll see you next time.